Hello everybody, Dawko up here, and I am of course joined by Mr. Brad, aka Synthetic Aurum, and tonight is Halloween night, and we have a treat for you, don't we?
Yes, yay, spooky. Alright, so Bryce and I have spent countless hours, possibly even a year or so of our lives, trying to figure out the Five Nights at Freddy's storyline. And every time we think we got it, a new game comes out and everything changes. So,
And a new theory comes out and we get curveballed like a madman.
yeah. So, naturally, that gets obnoxious. But last game's finally out. There's not going to be too much more revealed about the story, except maybe the movie, because they said that was going to be canon to the storyline. It's going to be a different story, so maybe that could be something else to reveal something about the story, but I don't really think so. I think it's mostly just going to be a sort of like a fun movie. I don't know.
Well, they did say it would be canon to the storyline. However, for now, since the movie isn't out yet, we will be going off of the evidence that we have from the current games.
Yeah. I would also like to just do a quick shout out to all the other FNAF theorizer people out there, because I know I've taken a lot of inspiration from some of their theories, like Matt Pat, 8-Bit Gaming, Dawko, Razzbowski, all of them. They're all super cool.
Yes, they're all great guys. Links to their channels in the description below will be available, although I think if you've found our video, you've probably seen all of theirs before.
Yeah, so we may be using a lot of sort of explanations from some of theirs. So if you want to, go ahead and you can watch their videos and then come back here or something like that. But we think we've got it all figured out. Alright, it's taken a long time. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was like a huge monkey wrench, but we think we got it figured out.
As Scott has said himself, nobody's gotten FNAF 4 right so far, at least last he said, so...
And he has also said that there are no random Easter eggs, which means we have to take pretty much everything into account. So, alright, here we go. So, it all starts off at Fredbear's Family Diner. This has been established countless times. That was the original, because, Phone Guy says it was the original place that came first. And Fredbear's Family Diner came out with this revolutionary new spring lock technology for animatronics and children's entertainment. The spring lock technology allowed for the animatronics to double both as animatronics and costumes for employees to wear, which allowed for a hand crank to be inserted into the back of a animatronic and to be wound in order for all the animatronic parts to compress and for the person to climb inside. So this happened at Fredbear's Family Diner, and this much I think we've pretty much agreed on. Now, we'll get to explaining why in a little bit, but this is the first thing that's happened, and this is Stage 01, which is the minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. This is represented by that, and I think we've all pretty much agreed on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty common. Now, the next part is a part that there's been a little bit of confusion on, but Bryce and I think we found an answer, and that's around the same time at Fredbear's Family Diner. After Fredbear's Family Diner got pretty successful, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was founded as a sister location to Fredbear's Family Diner, so they existed at the same time at one point. Now, why do we think this? Well, there's a lot of reasons why we think this. First of all, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 phone calls, Phone Guy mentions that there was a incident at a sister location. This incident was at a sister location to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, so we know that he's working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but we also know there's a sister location. A lot of people assumed it just meant another Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but in a sort of example I've used with Bryce and other people when I figured this out, was we call Venus the sister planet to Earth, but we don't call it Earth. It's not like a subsidiary of Earth, it's a sister planet, and so they don't necessarily need to be the same location in order for it to be a sister location. Mm-hmm. This is also backed by the television Easter egg in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, where we see that Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy all exist alongside Fredbear.
Fredbear and Springtrap, I guess you could say.
Yep, Fredbear and Friends is not like a cartoon or something like some people think it is. Rather, it's the name of both companies together essentially creates Fredbear and Friends. Um, you have Freddy Fazbear's, you have Fredbear Family Diner, and together it's Fredbear and Friends. So, currently, right now, it's Fredbear's Family Diner has Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, so it's stage 01. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has just Freddy, and this is where the Take Cake to the Children minigame comes in. Now, in this minigame, you play as Freddy in a very small location, only Freddy, as he's taking cake to a whole bunch of children. Meanwhile, outside, there is a child crying before this child gets brutally murdered by our purple guy. So, the purple guy is the murderer of the story, as almost every Five Nights at Freddy's fan knows by this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he kills the crying child. The crying child is, of course, standing outside. For some reason, he's not able to participate in this party, or he or she, I guess, is not able to participate in this party and gets murdered outside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So this is the first, like, real bad incident that happens in the whole location, and it sort of, like, triggers everything. Because this child, who we will refer to from now on as Crying Child, ends up haunting the place. Now, unlike Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, Crying Child doesn't ever really get a physical form. It's never trapped at one place, right?
Right.
Crying Child can appear as multiple different forms. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, as for how we know that the Take Cake to the Children minigame is like, that's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza at the time, it's because it's just Freddy, right? And it's only Freddy. There is no other instance where it's only Freddy, so it had to have come first before Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy were added. Now, real quick, something that I want to bring up is that around this time, so there are a lot of people, there's a lot of debate over whether or not the event that occurs in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is the Bite of 87. And, I mean, everyone knows what happens in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If you don't, why are you watching this?
Yeah, no spoiler alerts are wanted to be put up on this video, and since I guess they are kind of necessary. Now, here's your spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the ending of Five Nights at Freddy's 4, go play the game or watch a playthrough. Because seriously now.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway. So, the event that takes place at Fredbear's Family Diner either is or is not the Bite of 87. It is not, and we have a bunch of reasons why. So, the big one as to why it's not the Bite of 87 is that the Bite of 87, in the words of Phone Guy, you want to go ahead and like cut Phone Guy in?
Sure thing. Here's Phone Guy.
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day, too. But then there was the Bite of 87.
As we heard, right, the events happened as a result of the animatronics being allowed to walk around during the day. They wouldn't have stopped being allowed to walk around during the day unless the bite involved that. When Fredbear bites a kid, not only is Fredbear not even walking, but he's still on stage. So it's pretty clear that this isn't the Bite of 87, but there's a bunch of other reasons why. First off, we know that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes place in 1987. That's a fact. But we also know that Phone Guy says that Fredbear's Family Diner hasn't existed for plenty of years up until the point of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, meaning that Fredbear's Family Diner didn't even exist in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when did it exist? And this is where the 1983 Underneath Fredbear and Friends comes into play. Now, there's some debate over this, and I do see where the problem comes from. What does 1983 have to do with anything? We've never heard the date be mentioned before. Why does it matter? And the reason it matters, the reason we know that this took place in 1983, is simply because it can't mean anything else. The three main theories as to what 1983 means is it's the year, well, it's the one that me and Bryce know. It's the year that this occurs, right? There's the one that says that it was the year that Fredbear's Family Diner or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, either one of them, were established. And while that could be a legitimate one, like, oh, okay, I could see that. Problem is, we know when they were established. Why don't you go ahead and cut in Phone Guy again for us?
Here's Phone Guy.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No. If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
As he said right there, these animatronics, if I had to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd be a bit irritable at night too. So when he says that, we know that Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica at least have been around for 20 years prior to the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. So this means that thanks to Matt Pat's videos, we have established that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 took place sometime in the early 1990s, most likely sometime around 1995. Right. So, for Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica to have existed for 20 years and be singing and active for 20 years, that means they would have had to have been active since around 1975. And since we all know that Fredbear's Family Diner was established before Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it had to have also existed before 1975. Which means that 1983 is not the year that it was established. Now, the other big theory as to what the 1983 means is that it has something to do with, like, a cartoon, and that's supposed to be what it is, like the year the cartoon aired. Except the only problem is, as Scott said, all the Easter eggs, at least in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, have meaning. There are no random Easter eggs. And as such, he wouldn't put 1983 there if it was just a cartoon, because then it wouldn't mean anything. If he didn't put the 1983, I could see that thing saying, okay, well maybe it was just an Easter egg saying that Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy all existed at the same time as Fredbear. But he put the 1983 in there, therefore meaning it has to mean something. So that has to be the year that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 takes place. So now we got that out the way.
And in all honesty, if it was a cartoon showing off the characters, that would pretty much mean that the season that's running right now on the TV you're watching is the one from 1983.
And
you are in the past.
Yeah, then that wouldn't mean anything to the story. So we got all that figured out. So this takes place around 1983. So before this point, so between Take Cake to the Children and Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Purple Guy, he goes and he settles down and he has a family. And this family consists of him, the child from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the older brother, who we're going to call Foxy Bro, because that's awesome, and him. We don't know who the mother is. I don't think she's really relevant to the story.
And there's a possibility that they have a daughter as well, but we're not sure.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but we'll get to that at the end where we discuss like alternative theories. Purple Guy settles down and he has a family. Now, how do we know that these kids are Purple Guys? And there's one simple reason, is that in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, when Puppet Child goes back to and sees Purple Guy in the back room, Puppet Child stops crying. This is the only point in the game. Oh, by the way, we're calling the little Five Nights at Freddy's 4 a child Puppet Child. I'll explain why in a second. But once he goes back to see Purple Guy, he stops crying entirely. This Easter egg is in there for a reason, so we know he's somehow related to Purple Guy, most likely being Purple Guy is his father. This would also explain the purple robot and the purple phone. Basically, the big references to purple in the kid's nightmare room is because his dad is Purple Guy. This is his family. Now, I was calling the kid Puppet Child. Let's get into that. So, Puppet Child's birthday is coming up, and lo and behold, he is like he's with his dad, and his dad works at Fredbear's Family Diner. Now, one day at Fredbear's Family Diner, Puppet Child is there, when all of a sudden, the event that is referred to in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the multiple simultaneous spring lock failures, activates in front of Puppet Child's eyes. He sees the man inside Spring Fredbear and Spring Bonnie both get crushed by the spring lock mechanisms. And then these two workers become Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. How do we know this? Because when Puppet Child is walking through Fredbear's Family Diner, the shadows on the wall of Fredbear's Family Diner, that are the shadows of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, both look a lot like Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. And as Scott said, no random Easter eggs, so that has to mean that Fredbear and Spring Bonnie end up becoming Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Those both go off, and of course, Puppet Child, he witnesses this and he becomes terrified of Fredbear and Bonnie because of what he saw. After this incident, as the guy says in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, if you want to play that.
Here you go.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees. Until replacements arrive, you will be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness/relevance should be deflected.
As Phone Guy said, after this event, they try to replace them without any sort of incident. They try to make it look like nothing happened, so that way they can keep going without a hitch. After what happened at Freddy Fazbear's with the child getting murdered, they don't want any more bad publicity. Publicity. I can word.
Englishman.
Yes. They cover it up and they hide it. So both locations say they have to replace the spring animatronics because those aren't going to work anymore. Those are dangerous. So, Fredbear's Family Diner, as we can see, is doing way better than Freddy Fazbear's Pizza at this current time. We can see this because it's called Fredbear and Friends. It's not called Freddy and Friends, it's called Fredbear and Friends. Fredbear gets the top billing. He's the one who's in charge. He's like the big guy, whereas Freddy and characters are just sort of side characters. So it would make sense that Fredbear's Family Diner also has more funding at this point. So, this is where Fredbear's Family Diner replaces the animatronics with new ones. And this is explained because, first off, Fredbear now has a purple hat and a purple bow tie, differing from his Five Nights at Freddy's 3 Stage 01 minigame. Meanwhile, we can also, in the back room that Puppet Child gets locked in, there's lots of animatronic parts that don't look like they would come from Spring animatronics. Most specifically, the head area. They have a whole head there that doesn't look like it would be the kind of thing you would see in a Spring animatronic. It looks more akin to the actual endoskeletons we see later on in the game. So, therefore, it's quite likely that the Fredbear and Spring Bonnie we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 are the replacement versions. This would also explain why Purple Guy can be seen in the back room helping someone into the costume, because if they're new suits, then people wouldn't know how to get into them and it would make more sense.
Right.
So, Puppet Child is about to have a birthday, and Foxy Bro is bullying him, and he's being forced to go to Fredbear Family Diner where he doesn't want to go.
He hates it there.
And at this point of intense, sadness and stress, he gets visited by a companion who appears to him in the form of a Fredbear plushie. This companion is the spirit of Crying Child from before. Crying Child becomes Golden Freddy later on, but at this moment he is the Fredbear plush. As I said, Crying Child is not weighed down by any one animatronic. He is just a ghost, and this is because he was never given life, because he was never given life and as such tied down to any single animatronic, because Puppet didn't exist at this time. Which is also why Crying Child is able to do so many ghostly things. Now,
hang on. Viewers might be asking, well, what about the fact that we saw the puppet at the end of the Crying Child minigame? What's with that? Can you explain?
Well, let me continue on a little bit, alright?
Alright.
So, Crying Child comes to comfort the puppet, and the Puppet Child. And he is and of course, Puppet Child's really sad, but, Crying Child, in the form of the Fredbear plush, is able to sort of guide him and try and help him. And as such, they become sort of friends. Which is also sort of referenced when he goes into his plushie corner, he says, "These are my friends."
Yep.
So, all the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 minigame stuff goes down. We'll go more in depth on the actual minigames of that later when it becomes relevant, but for now, all we need to focus on is the incident. And this is, of course, the incident where the 4 bullies grab Puppet Child on his birthday, take him to Fredbear, and Fredbear accidentally crushes Puppet Child.
Skull.
Yes. Now, this kills Puppet Child. There's probably, I would say, what's most likely is that there's probably about a week or so in which Puppet Child is still alive, and these are the actual nights that you are playing in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, where you're stuck in his nightmares and eventually he loses the battle, as can be heard by the flat line at the very end of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. As can be heard by that, you know the kid dies, and that's another reason why this incident probably isn't the bite of 87. However, it's most likely that he stayed alive for a little while, as the pills and the flowers and all that can be seen at his bedside.
The IV drip, so on.
Etc. Yes. Now, why does this child become the puppet? Well, the evidence all points to the puppet, and I know MatPat provided an option between Golden Freddy and Puppet, saying that if he became Golden Freddy, it would fit in the story more, but more evidence leans toward the puppet. Actually, if he becomes Golden Freddy, alright, the way it is right now, Crying Child becomes Golden Freddy also fits really well to the story, which we will get to when it becomes relevant, but right now we're focusing on Puppet. Why does he become Puppet? First off, his shirt. His shirt matches Puppet's pattern, and colors have been shown to be incredibly important throughout the entire series. Like, for example, purple room matching with purple guy, all that sort of stuff. So, Puppet Child, he's got his colors. Also, when Puppet Child collapses at the end of the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 final minigame where he's talking the Fredbear plush, he has an almost identical pose to that of the puppet's silhouette in the Mangles Quest minigame.
And just to confirm, here's a side-by-side. Notice the similarities? I think you do.
So, it's pretty clear that Puppet Child is intended to be the puppet. So, Puppet Child becomes the puppet, and now we bring this all back full circle as to why the puppet jump scare appears at the end of Take Cake to the Children. Because Puppet and Golden Freddy are basically intertwined at this point. They are incredibly close. They were best friends, and now they're ghost friends. Also notice how these two characters are the only two that ever show real ghostly powers. It's because they're the characters who are actually ghosts, and they're manifesting in this form.
They're the ones that have pretty much said, you know what, screw this, we're gonna get some frickin' revenge.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back a little bit, Fredbear's Family Diner managed to easily replace the animatronics, but as we said, Freddy Fazbear's isn't as profitable, so they're having trouble replacing the spring animatronics, which will come in later. Just remember that Freddy Fazbear's are trying to replace it, but they can't yet. So instead, they decide they're going to try and fix up the old animatronics. So, Puppet and Crying Child are both ghosts now, and Purple Guy gets wind that these 4 bullies killed his son. Purple Guy's not very happy. So, Purple Guy, at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, lures these last 4 kids in and kills them. He kills the bullies for killing his son, and he decides he's going to make a pact to kill everyone who was involved in his son's party. Because he is angry and a little bit crazy.
He pretty much snaps after his favorite son is killed.
Exactly. So, after he kills these 4 kids, Puppet comes in. Now, Purple Guy, for a time, gets arrested, and this comes from the 4 newspapers found at Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Now, for a time, Purple Guy gets arrested, but he gets let out because of the fact that they can't find any bodies. And the reason they can't find any bodies is because Puppet Child, who is angry, or the puppet, who is angry at the 4 kids, traps them inside Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy.
A pretty much ill-permanent purgatory for the ones that put him there.
Exactly, and now they are essentially his slaves. He can make them do whatever they want, as seen by the Freddy perspective minigames in between the levels of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, where we see Puppet essentially in front of Freddy, tormenting him, and
showing that he's been there the whole time.
Exactly. And Puppet's been there the whole time, and he's been controlling them the whole time. Now, due to the fact that one of the animatronics literally murdered a child, Fredbear's Family Diners get shut down. And basically this really delays the renovations that Freddy Fazbear's is trying. So basically Freddy Fazbear's has to close off their back room. It has to take the Spring Fredbear and the Spring Bonnie animatronics in, and it has to hold them in the back room. And basically, it's got to do all this stuff to take all the assets from Fredbear's Family Diner and keep them there. After all, why are there arcade machines in Freddy Fazbear's back room? It's because those were arcade machines from Fredbear's Family Diner that had to be moved there. Fredbear's Family Diner is abandoned completely. Now, this would be a couple years, so the bite, I guess, the incident, I'm going to call it the incident of 83, happened in 83. So a few years later, they're still trying to fix everything, and they really can't. So the smell and the ugliness and the mucus and the blood and stuff appearing on the animatronics forces the place to close down. Until the place gets reopened, brand new, everything is new and shiny. Welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Welcome to the toy location for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
The redesigned look of Five Nights at Freddy's, pretty much.
Exactly. The toy location opens in the summer of 1987, where Phone Guy makes the phone recordings. Now, the withered animatronics are the spring animatronics that they tried to renovate, but they couldn't. Why do we know this? It's because of the Save Them minigame, where Purple Guy can be seen taking the hand crank and trying to destroy Freddy with it. And everyone's been debating what this item is that he's holding when he's trying to attack Freddy.
It looks like a phone, but why would you attack Freddy with a phone?
It looks like some sort of hand crank, which would make sense if they're spring animatronics, especially since Purple Guy clearly has a knowledge of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets important. We're going to go back to Five Nights at Freddy's 4, and we're going to look at the 5 kids who were outside during I believe it was the Night 3 minigame in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. So there are 5 children who are out there. A girl playing with her Spring Bonnie doll, a orange-haired girl who's really creepy and talking about the animatronics coming to life, a laughing boy, a balloon child, and a toy collecting girl. These 5 kids are the 5 kids that end up getting killed at Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the toy location where, in order to disguise himself from the facial recognition sensors of the new toy animatronics, Purple Guy disguises himself as Golden Freddy, because Golden Freddy is seen in a pool of blood in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It's pretty clear Golden Freddy was the suit used, not Spring Bonnie. But he disguises himself as Golden Freddy, and he takes these 5 kids and he kills them in there. Puppet, since those kids were basically his friends, tries to stop them by forcing Freddy to go and try and help save them, but it doesn't work as they can't.
Save them. Help them. You can't.
Exactly. So, finally Purple Guy has achieved his vendetta, and he has killed every child involved in the birthday party, as can be seen by the fact that all the kids saying they were going to the birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so then FNAF 2 happens, and Jeremy Fitzgerald is working the night shift. He gets moved to the day shift for a birthday party, however, he gets bitten at the birthday party in the bite of 87. Technically speaking, the bite could be any of the toy animatronics, as they moved around during the day, and they got discontinued after this event. Therefore, it can be any of the toy animatronics. Most likely Mangle, due to the whole, swinging down and biting thing. Mangle kind of has a biting gimmick. But it's most likely that it's one of them, basically. It can be any one of them. You can theorize all you want. Now, the rest of this is pretty basic up to a certain degree. So, Freddy Fazbear's then gets downgraded to the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 Freddy Fazbear's. At which point, they take the withered animatronics, they make them just normal animatronics, and they just continue on with it. But eventually that place gets closed down for unknown reasons currently. Purple Guy, finally just wanting all this to be over, goes back to finish all of it. And this is the event that changes everything, alright? Going back to those 5 children, and the big burning question that everyone's had, what does the mangle in the girl's bedroom mean? And this is one of the things that a lot of the people who are supporters of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 taking place in 1987 say. If Mangle's there, clearly the thing takes place in 1987, and I'll admit, for a long time it had me stumped. I was like, well, clearly it has to. I mean, Mangle didn't exist any other time. But then I realized, these are Puppet's memories. These are the way Puppet remembers it. This is how Puppet's thinking. That doesn't mean that everything has to be physically correct. So here's what Mangle means. Mangle isn't actually there, but Mangle's there to show us something incredibly important. These 5 children weren't given life in the same vein that the 4 bullies were. These 5 children could have left at any time and moved on to the next world. These 5 children are the children in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 mini-games, and if you play those mini-games, it represents the children deciding to stay behind and help the bullies, Crying Child, and Puppet Child all move on with them. Why do I think this? Alright, here's why. Each of these 5 children has something that links them to one of the 5 mini-games. So, the 5 mini-games, in order of how you play them, are Balloon Boy's Air Adventure, Mangle's Quest, Chica's Party, or something like that. I think it's Chica's Party. Stage 01, and then the Shadow Bonnie minigame. Now, let's start with the Spring Bonnie girl. The girl holding a Spring Bonnie doll. Spring Bonnie, as we've established, is Shadow Bonnie. When Spring Bonnie went off, it created Shadow Bonnie. This little girl's spirit is staying behind and helping them, is represented in the Shadow Bonnie minigame. If we look at the Balloon Boy, naturally that's the Balloon Boy. That's pretty simple. It's the easiest one to figure out. If we look at the Laughing Boy, well, there are very few characters in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe that actually laugh. 3, in fact. There's Balloon Boy, who we already have, Freddy, who isn't represented in any of these, and Golden Freddy, who is represented in the Stage 01 minigame. So this child is represented in the Stage 01 minigame. Then there's the Toy Collection Girl. Now, here's where things get interesting. During Matt Pat's live stream, where he and a bunch of other Five Nights at Freddy's enthusiasts tried to get together and figure out Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott changed some things on his website. One of them being the question, why is the Chica in the girls' toy collection, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, missing its beak? Clearly, it's Toy Chica. It's supposed to represent Toy Chica, because Toy Chica is the only Chica that's missing its beak. This little girl has a Toy Chica, and in Chica's Party, it's clearly Toy Chica that you're playing as, not normal Chica. This little girl is represented in the Chica's Party minigame. Now for the last one, and the reason why Mangle exists. The last one is Mangle's Quest, and in the room where Mangle is found, there is one other item that is prominent, and that is the massive picture of a flower right next to Mangle. There's only one character that is found in the patch of flowers, and that's the orange-haired girl. So, Mangle is there, along with all these other little details, to match up to us each of the characters to one of the 5 minigames. Now, I'm not saying that these children ended up actually becoming Golden Freddy and Mangle and stuff. They aren't actually them, but it is represented in them staying behind and helping the kids. I also believe that these 5 kids went on to possess the toy animatronics, hence why the toy animatronics were acting so weird and attacking everybody. You might be thinking, that sounds crazy, or you may be slightly convinced, but one more weird coincidence involving 5 children is that in the Happiest Day minigame, if you exclude all the characters, if you exclude Puppet, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy from that game, there are still 5 children in the room. Seems like a pretty weird coincidence for that number to keep popping up. 5 kids get murdered by Purple Guy in FNAF 2, 5 toy animatronics that have apparently no reason to be possessed, that's Balloon Boy, Mangle, and then the 3 new toy animatronics. There's 5 kids found in the Happiest Day minigame room, and there's 5 kids that were outside of Fredbear's Family Diner. That seems like a pretty odd coincidence.
But a coincidence that might just mean something.
Exactly. So, these 5 kids, if you play the minigames at Five Nights at Freddy's 3, they stay behind. and they help each character move on until finally they get Puppet on their side so they can help the last child, Crying Child, finally move on. They're going essentially in reverse order of how each kid was killed. But here's the big thing, and the reason why Crying Child as Golden Freddy works story-wise even better than if Puppet was Golden Freddy. Because Matt Pat's argument is having Puppet Child be Golden Freddy would give him the birthday party he always wanted. But notice, you're playing the game from Puppet's perspective, and it's called Happiest Day. It's already Puppet's happiest day, because he is getting the birthday party he wanted. But you know what they're doing to Crying Child? Do you know how they save each kid? They take cake to them. And, as we all recall, Crying Child was excluded from getting cake taken to him. And so finally, here, in the Happiest Day minigame, if all the kids have banded together to help each of the kids moved on, then finally they take cake to Crying Child and wrap all this up full circle straight from the beginning. And then from this point, the rest of it's pretty simple. If the 5 kids decide to stay and help them out, then Golden Freddy or Crying Child finally manages to get back at Purple Guy, and they're all able to move on to the next life. If they don't, then they don't move on. And then Purple Guy becomes Springtrap and is doomed forever to inhabit Springtrap. And yeah, there really isn't much more to it.
He's pretty much getting his just desserts and being forced to do the same thing that they had to do for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it.
Yep.
What I believe we could possibly definitively call the grand unifying theory for the Five Nights at Freddy's mythos.
The truth behind FNAF.
Any, of course, questions, comments, and concerns can be input into the description below, as I'm sure there will be many.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've watched this point, leave a comment in the comment box below. What should the comment be for if they've watched up to this point?
You could tell us what you think, if you think we're right, if you think we're idiots. I'm sure we're going to get those comments anyway.
Yep.
I'd like to see what everyone's favorite animatronics are.
Yeah, that's a good one. If you've made it to this point, tell us what your favorite animatronic is. That's how we'll be able to tell the posers from the real people here.
Mine's Freddy.
In all honesty, I would have to say mine is Foxy.
Mm-hmm. I also like Springtrap and Puppet, though.
Does that mean I'm the phone guy, though? Who knows? Probably
not.
Yes, you are. Anyways, right. Though.
All right.
My name is Bakuop.
And I'm Brad.
This has been our Five Nights at Freddy's Halloween theory. And we will see you.
Happy Halloween!
We will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye!
Bye.